Good morning and welcome to the Flow Driven CEO podcast. I should also say good afternoon because we are talking to Josh Allan Dykstra all the way from Colorado, which is it's around I think 3:20 p.m. Monday, isn't it, Josh?
That's correct.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Josh.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about energy today. I get the feeling, based on some of the insights you've already shared with me. But energetically, I always keep saying this, but it's quite interesting. You're in the past and the future, but right now we're energetically present with each other. So how's that for
Yeah.
some wild energy? I'd love to get your thoughts on that
Yeah.
as we chat. But yeah, energy can be past, present, and future, or is energy always just present?
That's rather quantum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very quantum. Yeah. I'm sure we could go down a rabbit hole about this, but
Yes.
yeah. And I'm looking at the view behind you, and I know it's a little bit faded, but can I just ask, are they mountains behind you or no?
Oh, not out this way. The mountains would be that way. So yeah,
Yeah.
you can definitely see them from my place. But yeah, not out that way,
Yeah,
sadly.
cool.
Yeah.
I've been skiing over your way, so or
Mm.
snowboarding. So are you a boarder or a
Yeah.
skier?
Snowboarder. Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly. It's been a minute. It's been a little while since I've been up on the mountain. But yeah, I did a lot of snowboarding in college.
What's your closest mountain? Out of interest.
Oh, I suppose the closest one is probably the one by Boulder.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's all the main ones aren't too far from.
Yeah.
I'm in Denver, so yeah, I'm not too far from anything.
Yeah, I've been to Steamboat and Telluride and all
Mm.
those areas. So
Hmm.
anyway, we digress. I could talk about snow all day as well. There's something energetically beautiful about being in the snow. But Josh Allen, do you want to be called Josh Allen or just Josh? Is Josh cool?
Yeah, Josh is totally fine. I do the Josh Allen to make it easier to find me online.
Yeah, I
So
like it because it's like there's
yeah,
probably a lot of Joshes out there, but you're
yeah,
Josh. But you're the future of work visionary, CEO of Work Revolution, an author. We found out, published a book way back when, but no doubt you've got more books in the pipeline. I get that feeling from you. And the founder who helps individuals and organizations design, I guess, more future-proof, regenerative energy aligned ways of working. So, kind of
yeah,
when we talk about the future of work, we're at such a interesting point in time, aren't we, in terms of, everything feels zapped energetically. It's
yeah,
not sustainable anymore. We can't continue to kind of work the way we've been currently working. Moving into this new world order, and yet we're still trying to
yeah,
push, where this energy
mm,
feels so depleted. Tell
yeah.
us about your journey, how you've come to be the CEO of Work Revolution, the energy over effect, kind of why you're so focused on energy. And yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure, sure. Thank you. So my initial chosen profession was rock star. I really thought I was going to be a musician, like a performing musician. I grew up as a classically trained pianist, and so I grew up on stages, recitals and in churches and playing in front of people. And I quite loved gathering a crowd and you know being on a stage. And so I thought I was going to go down the musician path. I took it pretty seriously, as I tend to do most things. But I got a manager. We moved to Los Angeles, shop in
Wow.
the labels, record the albums. And then about 6 months into my journey in LA, I'm like, I don't want to do music as a career. I'm actually not a night person, which is kind of a big problem for trying to be a musician.
Totally.
And it's like, and the business of music was just, it wasn't for me. And so I was like, so I had this little bit of like a quarter life crisis, I just moved to across the country, and I was like, what am I going to do if I'm not going to do the thing I thought I was going to do? And eventually, I had this like dark night of the soul, and
Oh yeah, I've
I
been there.
realized,
Mhm.
I realized. So what I did is I reflected on all the jobs I was working while I was a musician, because you don't make any music money playing music, right? So you got to work. I worked all these other jobs, and I worked for big companies and small companies and for profits and nonprofits. I did all these different kinds of jobs when I was trying to do music. And so as I was trying to figure out what to do, I was looking back at all these other jobs, and I started to notice a connection. I noticed that when my job was good, my life felt better.
Mm.
Right? When my manager was good, my well-being felt higher. Right? When my organizational culture was good, right, I went home happier at the end of the day. And then when the opposite was of course true, right? When my manager was crappy, my life felt crappy.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that's an interesting connection. And so then I just did, a tiny bit of research, realized, oh, this isn't a Josh thing. This is an everybody thing. Right?
Mm.
Everyone experiences this because we spend almost our whole working adult lives or waking adult lives at work.
Mm.
So I was like, well, that's interesting. So I did a little bit more research, and then I realized that even though we all spend all of this time at work, most of us hate it. Right? Like somewhere between 70, 80 to 80% of people are like, they're like meh
Right.
or worse.
Yeah.
Like right when it comes to you ask them how they feel about their work, right? This is not like a source of energy and life for most people. Like it really is only like 20% of people that say they get to love their work, this thing they do all day long. And I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I can't believe we've designed a world, right? I'm coming out of university, right? I'm all optimistic. And I'm like, why in the world did we build a world system that sucks the freaking life out of everybody? And this is just what we're going to do with our existence? Like, this is the dumbest possible. So I've spent the last like 15 to 17 years trying to like detangle that problem, understand why work sucks so bad, and then more importantly, try to figure out how to make it life giving instead of life sucking.
And do you think you've worked it out? Like, do you think you've got the answers? So, like, do you think you've solved it?
Mo- Mostly, yeah. Like I think I understand it pretty fairly comprehensively at this point. I think there's certainly more things I can learn, of course, as always. But yeah, like if you boil it down, really the problem is kind of there's two core problems, and it's a me problem and a we problem. And these me and we are always kind of the two sides of the coin. So there's an individual problem, which is that most of us believe work is supposed to suck. Right? Most of us have been convinced of this lie that work should feel like work, that
Mm.
work should be a little bit painful, that work should hurt you. And if it doesn't hurt you a little bit, it can't be, it's not worthy of being called work, right? That's something we call play.
Mm.
Or we have different words for that. So we don't even understand. Like most people have this really deep belief system that work should suck. And then the other problem is that we've built organizational operating systems to actually suck. So what they do is that you remember the Matrix movie, right? Where like the machines plug into the humans as batteries
Mm.
to like suck the humans' energy out and keep the machine working. Like that's basically the organizational design of today's workplace at a macro scale.
Mm.
Organizational design structures are not like it's not a bug that they suck the life out of you. It's a feature, right? Like this is how they're designed. They're designed to take your energy, and that's how they stay alive. And it's just completely backwards. Thus, the revolution. I talk about that.
Yeah.
That's how we end up with the work revolution. We need to turn that around.
Yeah. And
So that's what
I
I'm
totally,
about.
oh, sorry, you go. Sorry. No, I totally buy that in terms of if the work sucking the energy out of you or the life out of you, because you only have to look at the burnout stats as well. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've suffered burnout myself or
Mhm.
experienced it, I should say. And always thought it was, yes, I was part of it, but I always thought it was my issue to solve and that I had to work through it.
Right.
And it
Right.
took a lot. That took a lot out of me because I was questioning me. I went through this whole identity crisis, the whole lot of it. When actually, I think organizations have to take a big responsibility for burning their people out because it's a system. And when you get caught
Yep.
up in that system, and when that system is sucks, if you like the language you're
Mhm.
using,
Mhm.
well, of course it's going to burn people out and it's going to churn people
Mhm.
out, and you're going to have higher attrition rates and all that sort of thing because it's
Yeah.
not a place that is like protecting your energy, if you like.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Do
Exactly
you?
right. It's
Yeah,
that's what they're designed to do. Yeah, it's
yeah,
designed. So yeah, I say, and when I say suck, I mean it really literally, right? Like it sucks the life out of you. Like it sucks the energy out of you. It sucks the purpose out of people's lives. It also sucks a bunch of resources from the planet And does, right, so it does that kind of sucking too, right? So it's just like all around, business does a lot of sucking and just not a lot of like regenerative giving.
No. And so how do you then how do you give back? How do you as you know, as from a work revolution, what's your revolution? Do you have a framework? How do you go in and solve these problems? And how do you assess if the energy is depleted or not, like from an individual or an organization perspective?
Yeah. It it almost doesn't need to be assessed at this point. Pete. Like this is not like it's just a given. Like I don't think I've ever been any in an organization ever where they could not have like they would not benefit from having a more energized
Mm,
workforce.
mm,
Right? So even if you're good, even if you're like top quartile engagement scores and right and you would say that you're like one of the best places to work, I promise, like they have not done this, right? They have not optimized their organization for human energy. Like they just like no one has taken this far enough. So I don't really even worry so much about the measurement. What I worry about is like I just take that as a given. Um, what I do think about though is measuring is I want people to start measuring kind of the leading indicators for how to fix it right? So if we're coming into an organization, what we're measuring is things like we do measure burnout, right? Like, so you need to know where you are with that. And we want to measure psychological safety. And then we want to measure what we call energy intelligence. Like, are you actually like increasing the energy intelligence of your people, of your leaders, of your teams, like of your systems? Because this is where all the energy leaks happen. Like we
mm.
don't even see it because it's just such a normal part of work. Right? We just accept it that, oh yeah, no, that the way we run that meeting, that totally sucks. But everyone just puts up with it, right? That, oh my goodness, that expense report process. Oh, I hate it. It's horrible. It wastes my time. It makes me feel crap. Like, right. We just put up with this stuff. Like energy sucking stuff is just the norm absolutely everywhere. And it's endemic in organizations.
Yeah, I get it's endemic, but then I think that there's also and I'll be interested in your thoughts on this. I mean, I three up until 3 years ago, I had a team of 150, so I had 150 staff, and so there's definitely energy depletion, energy sucking, but I also
Mm,
just think that sometimes I also noticed that sometimes it was the individual and their energy levels and what they were bringing
mm,
to the business as well. Do you
mm,
ever go into businesses and see, yes, there's huge energy sucks or energy holes? You can't we've got energy in our hands right now. You can't see it, right?
no.
So sometimes you can't
Mm,
see it, you can't touch it, sort of thing. It's
yeah.
kind of weird to think about energy that way.
Yeah.
But do you ever kind of come across people that are just energy drainers in terms of they're just draining energy for the sake of draining energy? And then how do you kind of cut through that to then get to actually
Yeah.
what the fundamental leak is that to
Yeah.
fix?
Yeah, 100%, right? So, yeah, I talk about these things as energy vampires, right?
Yeah.
So these energy vampires, right? They suck the energy out of other people, or they could be processes that are sucking the energy out of your teams. But yeah, certainly, like certain people can be energy vampires. And so what needs to happen is leaders need to lead, and they need to say, "Hey, energy vampire, do you still want to be one of those?" and give them an opportunity to learn about that. This is the me part, right? Like I need, like each person needs to go on an individual journey to discover what energizes them
Mm,
and what makes them feel whole and alive and full at work. Like that is an individual's responsibility. And so some people are willing to go on that journey and they say, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be an energy vampire anymore. I'd love to learn how to not be that. Then you keep them. And if they're not willing to make those changes, then they got to go. And
yeah.
it's kind of that simple, right? Like there really is no kind of middle ground here. The middle ground is toxic, is as toxic as keeping them, maybe worse. So leaders got to lead if you want to get rid of those. And then leaders got to lead on systems too, because they're the only ones with the authority to actually fix the systems, right? Individual contributors can't fix systems. Leaders, especially senior leaders, need to do audits on their systems and determine which ones are sucking the life out of people and which ones are okay and start with the worst ones and fix those. Or like none of this is like complicated to understand. It's just most organizations aren't willing and or don't are not, going to put in the time to do it. But if they did, the productivity gains would be just like unheard of.
Yeah, I always thought that you can't have a system without culture and you can't have a culture without system. But, culture, I don't really like using the word culture actually, because I just think culture is a bit of a BS word. Like it's a bit of, like, I think there's way more to
Mm,
culture. I talk about energy, attitude, and behavior. And
mm,
so I feel like what you're saying here is you can't have a system without, a full energy, if you like, and you can't have, energy without a system that I guess feeds the energy is it sounds like that's what you're talking about, which is kind of similar to the way
yeah.
I go into when I'm going into businesses. The systems can be a huge component to what's driving the
Mm.
energy, attitude, and behavior of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I simplify that for
Yeah,
folks a little bit?
yeah,
So the best way to understand culture, because you're right, it's not a great word to use because it's so complex. Almost by definition, culture is too complex for people to like really grasp. So a much better way to think about what culture is in an organization is culture is your operating system. So just like an operating system on your phone or on your computer, right? It runs in the background. It's mostly invisible. It's most people don't ever think about the operating system, but the operating system is deciding lots of things. It's
mm,
deciding what programs you can run, what kinds of things people can do on your operating system, right? So in your company, this is exactly what culture is. It's your operating system. It
yeah,
decides what people can do. It decides how people can respond to customers, how they need to talk to each other. So if you think about it that way, I just find that that's a really much more simple way to understand a really complex thing.
yeah.
So, and you can also upgrade it, right? If you think about it as your operating system, it's like, oh, I can upgrade this, right? I can swap out these pieces or upgrade these parts, and I can make my operating system better. Uh, that's a good way to think about culture.
Yeah. Do you get much resistance towards when you're coming in talking about like energy? Do people kind of, and I do that because like in terms of, do people go, what are you talking about? You're just being a bit woo woo, or like,
Yeah,
like you talked about your previous career as a muso and a musician, and I'm sure there was times where you were probably like, people probably weren't taking you as seriously as you wanted to be because it's like you wanted to be a rock star. Like
yeah.
that's pretty an amazing aspiration, and I'm sure you could have been a rock star or would have been a rock star. Do you, as a futurist, as someone who is redefining, reshaping work, and you've got quite well, you're reshaping. You're talking about a new world order here, which is very much in the
Mm,
space and place I'm talking about as well in terms of what
mm,
I'm doing. And so
yeah.
you're going against what's traditionally been always ingrained in businesses when it comes to
Yeah.
change and all of that sort of thing, right? And so you're
Yeah.
almost like not, but like you're different. You're not like the others.
Hmm.
And so do
Hmm.
you ever come across this resistance or yeah, resistance to it? Then how do you walk away from it or do you go, okay, or you try and break them down? Like what's your kind of way? I'm interested in
Yeah.
this because it's interesting what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Right. Like there's tons of resistance to this, right? But the future in the kind of way that we want it always gets resistance from the status quo present. Always. Right? Like this is how the as far as I can tell, right? If we study history, right, this is all like things are always crazy until they're not, you know? And this is how the future gets better is that there's small groups of crazy people who dare to say, no, we can't do it this way anymore.
Mm,
And there's moments in history, and I believe we're in one now, that provide us opportunities to actually make step changes, right? So, not just evolutionary changes, but revolutionary changes where we can go from here to here instead of just here to here, right?
mm,
And so, if we want to get serious about the kind of future that I think we want, right? I think everybody wants a future that doesn't suck, right? Like at the very minimum, right? Like that that's what we need. Like that's what we deserve. Like that's what we want for our kids and their kids and our friends' kids and like the everything else that lives on this planet. Like at the very least, we can design something that doesn't totally suck. And yeah, it's crazy until it's not, right? And it's gonna be crazy until it's not. So I guess we just keep fighting for it.
Yeah. So it's taking those one that one step in front of the other and, kind of really celebrating those wins, but knowing when there's resistance, it means that something is is causing a stir. I feel like it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like or people generally catch on. It's going on that
Yeah.
journey. Tell me a little
Well,
bit of, oh, sorry, you're gonna say
well,
something.
yeah, just that this is how life gets born too, right? Like new life comes into the world in kind of a difficult, painful, messy way,
Mm,
right? Like this is how new things get born. And so I think for us to kind of expect it to not be that is also like that's not really paying attention to the way biology happens.
no, I totally agree. And I think that I feel like COVID caused us to, or Mother Nature in particular, was like, this isn't sustainable anymore. Like, I
Mm.
need a rest. Mother Nature needs a rest because we ultimately shut down. And
Yeah,
everything energetically felt different.
mm,
And you look if
very much.
you looked at different places, and everything was kind of regenerating, if you like.
Mm.
And so I feel like that was a starting point of this kind of new wave of new energy. And then when it comes to back to work, even I feel like the term work is a sucky word in terms of
Yeah,
like it's like we talk about life and then we talk about work, and so you've got this
yeah,
complete like separation, whereas I'm like it's not separated. It's like energy is always flowing. It's like we've talked about, it's flowing right now here. And for me, it's like that life work flow. It's constantly, you don't have to be living your life and then you go straight to work. And I think that's part of the problem because we've been so ingrained in working 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. Generally, you have your weekend off, then you come back to work and you speak to most people on a Sunday or Sunday night and their anxiety's kicking in, or they're already going into this doom of energetically, I've got to go back into work the next day. I
yeah.
wonder, and I'd love your thoughts on this, if it's something to do with the word work as well, because you called it out at the very start of this pod, like there's the work and play piece, right? I feel like there's language that we're kind of stuck with right now, or it's kind
Mm.
of starting to not resonate as well with people.
Mm.
But we're yet to redefine what the term is or what it's called.
Mm.
Like as again as a futurist, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, language is an interesting and I think really important part of the conversation. Yeah, no pun intended. Um, because it frames the way we think, right? Like we think in our language and the language that we have access to, like limits or expands what we can imagine.
Mm,
And so language always has this kind of framing power. So it is important. And some words, may be beyond use, right? Like for like right now in the US, like the letters DEI, right? That's like it's kind of like beyond use, right? Like there's just like no reclaiming that acronym. And so we've got to start using different language. I don't know if the word work is in that category, because when I add modifiers to it, people feel very differently about it. So for example, if I were to say, do you like what is your version of meaningful work?
mm,
Right? When we add right, so when we talk about meaningful work, suddenly people don't really have much of a problem with it. Because
yeah,
then they're like, oh, actually I love like if I get to do something that's meaningful, like so the thing about work is that humans actually love it when they get to when it's meaningful to them.
yeah,
Right?
100%.
Like most people actually don't hate work. They think they do, but what they actually hate is like pointless bullshit work.
Mm,
They hate that, right? Like everybody hates that. But
mm,
like meaningful work, that's a peak human experience. Like that's a flow state. Like so I don't think we toss that word. I think we just need to like understand how to modify it to
Mm.
create the kind of future that we actually want. And I think AI is actually going to push us in this direction potentially, because as AI takes certain parts of our work, the notion of what a job is going to become questioned. Like we're going to have to question like what exactly does it mean to have a job?
Mm.
And if we can use this AI transition to really like push humanity towards more meaningful work instead of and let AI do jobs, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's and I think for me it's meaningful and what matters. Like it's work that's meaningful and
Mhm.
what matters. I think it's not just meaningful. I think it's also how does it matter to you? How does it matter to the
Mm.
organization? So you said you've got three assessments. So you've got the energy intelligence assessment. What's and then you said you've got you do a burnout check as well. I can't remember what you said the other one was. Forgive me, but
Oh yeah,
how do you
psychological safety.
that's right, psychological safety. How do you how do you assess? Like, is it like a survey? What do you do? Like, how do you assess the individuals in the organization?
Yeah. Yeah, we use some validated survey items kind of based on the folks who have done a lot of research in these particular areas.
Mm.
So there's a university professor over here who studied burnout a lot named Brian Sexton. So we use some of his like publicly accessible research. And so he's validated these survey items. And same with Amy Edmondson at Harvard, who came up with psychological safety and that concept. And so they've published these research studies with their validated survey items. So for those ones, we can piggyback on stuff we know is valid.
Validated? Yeah.
Yeah. And then for our area of study, which we call energy intelligence, right? Those are our survey items. And so we're continually kind of looking at validating those, but that takes many years. So we're still
Mm.
working on it.
Mm. Have you studied any form of spiritual energy or anything like that? Like in terms of to get the Eastern and the Western energy
Mm.
kind of flowing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so many of these things pull from the same source. So as I get older, the more I notice this, like that even if we're talking about different spiritual traditions and everything from yoga to tantra to like they're like all of like in my view, like all of these things that help us be more present and we can like help us see each other more clearly. Right. I think it's all kind of pulling from the same source. And I
Mm.
think we're just using like different application, endpoints
Mm.
on all of these things. But the more I look at this stuff, the more it all seems like the same.
Yeah.
The same like inner work, the
Yeah.
same practices.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the inner work, yeah, it is that inside out, transformation. That's that inside out revolution, isn't it? It really is kind of
Mhm.
everything starts within, and and I believe that an organization has a biology, has a system, is a living and breathing ecosystem or a system, if you like, just like a human. So,
Mm.
but it all starts from within. When I ask people to book in for the pod, I generally ask a question and, it's about one unique insight or experience in life, leadership, or business that you'd like to share. And we've talked a lot about it, but you talked about the power of energy intelligence. Is there anything further you would like to share around the power of energy intelligence? Like, is that a collective power that you're referring to, or is it just the power in general of into energy intelligence?
Yeah. So when I talk about energy intelligence, I really mean it as a form of personal intelligence that one can build.
Mm.
So just like we can build our other kinds of skills, maybe around our musical intelligence, right? I can learn how to play the piano better, right? Or I can learn my body mechanical intelligence if I want to learn how to play a sport, or right. So uh, I think of energy intelligence as also something that one can build and they can practice. And the way we talk about it is that it's very much a set of self-awareness practices
Mm.
that as I practice being more energy intelligent, I know the specific, predictable, reliable activities, and specifically at work, we talk about this the most, right? Because that's where people spend the most of their lives, right? So at work, Do you know the activities that help you feel alive and full and in flow and focused? Right? Do you know what triggers those things? Most people do not. Right?
Mm,
Most people's energy intelligence is very low. They can give me a list of crap a mile long of all the stuff that drains them at work. That's very easy. What they don't, but they haven't the faintest clue, hardly. Like, give me a list of all of the activities that bring you energy in life at work, blank stare. So this is a very important place for it's a very important growth edge for most people because we haven't been trained on this. We haven't been taught that. I wasn't, right? Like I just started this journey, what, 15 years ago. Like when I became aware, like, so you can go on this journey, you can build your energy intelligence and you can do it within a very kind of inexpensive way because you've got a built-in energy detector. It's called your body, right? Like your body feels when you're being energized by something and it feels when it doesn't like what it's doing. The problem is most of us have been trained to ignore that feeling. You just at work especially, right? It does if it's in your job, you got to power through, my friend. Like you got to
that's the
keep working,
burnout. Yeah, that's
work
the burnout.
harder, and that leads you to burnout. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
Right. So
yeah, severe, but yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that the idea here is really simple, is to do more of what energizes you and less of what doesn't.
Mm.
But like crafting your life in such a way, that's the hard part.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard part is that you have to do the inner work. Like,
Hmm.
like we've always, I mean, I think we generally know when energy is depleting us and when it's
Yeah.
not. But it's knowing when to set the boundaries, if you like, of to say, no, that's not filling me up, my cup up, my energy levels up.
Yeah.
I guess I just have to push through it versus
Yeah.
going, no, 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 no. And, like once you've had burnout, and I was had a checkup with my doctor the other day on some stuff, and I was asking him again, because it's 3 years since I've had it, but the handbrake just comes on so much faster now. Like when my energy is depleted, or
Mm.
when my mind and
Yeah.
body and soul feels
Yeah.
like I'm being pushed, I'm pushing myself. It just goes, and it's just the weirdest feeling from an energy intelligence perspective. I cannot explain it. It's just like this whole,
Mm.
oh, okay, I can't keep doing like how I used to do it
Yeah. Yeah.
because like it shuts down and it goes, no, 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 I want to fill my
Yeah.
energy up, not keep doing what you're intending to do to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And I wonder if a lot of us have a more in tune sense of that since the pandemic.
Yeah,
Like, right, if we got a sense in that kind of reset, in that moment, like you were talking about, right? We had this moment, like, did we get a little bit more in tune with, yeah, I can't quite do this the way I did before. And if that's kind of catalyzing some of these new visions and kind of some of these frustrations at a higher level than we were feeling before, because now we've gotten a taste of what it looks like to live a little bit differently.
yeah. And I think that's the tipping point, right? Because it's like we're having to, even myself, like I'm a high performer. You've talked about flow state. You're probably a high performer as well, no doubt. And, I'm adjusting still myself because it's like I'm all about this new world order. I'm all about reshaping,
Yeah,
redefining where we don't have to live and work the way we have for so long because you can get to the top of your game, but
yeah,
unless it's meaningful and matters,
mm,
it's kind of like you've worked your ass off for what? Do you know what I mean? Like, sure,
yeah,
materialistically, you might have wealth, etc., but energy-wise, you don't feel fulfilled. And
yeah,
then, yeah, so I see this and I'm all about, making that positive impact and change in the world. But
yeah,
yet I'm still adjusting and I'm still adapting to it as well, kind of going,
hmm,
oh, am I being lazy today? Or because energetically, I just
mm,
haven't, felt like it. I said to you, I've had a bit of a virus this, past week or two, and I'm just like not at the top
yeah,
of my game. And now,
yeah,
once upon a time, me would want to push through. And now I'm just like, no, I just have to I'm just unwell. I'll feel better. And so I have to just go with my energy levels right now, you know?
yeah, yep. I think that's a really important thing for all of us to notice and learn and practice is how to actually be a biological being like
I like that.
the
Biological being.
like the
Oh,
way that we've been working,
yeah,
it just is kind of this like otherworld, like made up like layer where stuff doesn't make sense. And like if we come back and realize that we're like a biological being, part of this earth, and like we're part of this ecosystem, everything just seems to make more sense to me because it's like then of course you need to go with those rhythms, right? Like you need to honor that, like because we are one of those beings that like is part of this cycle, right? So it's just like I don't know, and I think the further we get away from the understanding that we are part of this and we think we're somehow like above or have dominion over, or right, like that's where stuff gets really weird,
I
is
agree.
when we kind of
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah. And you tapped on Dark Night of the Soul. I've had one too. And I don't know how long yours
Yeah.
went on for, but mine went on for quite a time, quite a time. And I was
Yeah. A
like,
couple
what the,
years, I think.
how long was yours?
Couple years probably. I mean,
Yeah.
like if like I was, as I was searching, because I really didn't know what I was gonna do.
I was just like, what the actual, what is
Yeah.
this? And I saw a shamanic killer, and she's like, "Bee, you're going through a dark night of the soul." And I'm like, what? And then once I kind of read into
Yeah.
it, I'm like, what the actual? And I'm like, she said,
Hmm.
I don't know how long you're going to be in it, but you'll know when you start to come out of it. Anyway,
Yeah.
funny story. I saw her last year, and it was 2 years since and actually she'd called it a dark night of the soul, and I got it because she's
Yeah.
just like it's going to
Yeah.
keep everything's just going to keep falling apart, and it was. And last
Yeah.
year she turned around, she said to me, "B, you're still rebirthing," and I looked at her and I'm like, "Are you kidding? That I've got another year of this?" She said, "It's not going to be until next spring that you're going to be fully birthed." And she called out, she said, "People won't even recognize you in the street. Your energy is going to
Mm.
be so different. Your energy." She
Mm.
just kept talking about my energy. I know
Mm.
we've only got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
Did you, from your dark night of the soul to now, and as part of your whole energy journey,
Yeah.
did you notice that change? Did people notice that change in you as well, like in terms of energetically? And yeah,
I think, yeah. So I think actually I've just probably gone through another. Uh, so over the last couple years, I built a tech company for 5 or 6 years, and then just last year I decided to close it, and it was a kind of death for me. Like it was a slow, painful death too. Like it wasn't like a hit by a
no,
bus death. It was like a
real,
slow,
ugh,
painful,
yeah,
yeah, like disintegration, and it was so yeah. I feel like I'm kind of coming out of another dark night for myself, and I do think I've had comments of people noticing that I feel different now than I've got a note card from a good friend of mine actually right here that I keep, and it basically says this. And so yeah, it's a noticeable thing, I think, that we can grow in this way, which is exciting.
yeah, exciting. Something to bring into
Yeah.
the workplace around the dark night of the soul, and do
Mm,
organizations go through it? I think they do. To people, absolutely. We've both done it. Josh,
yeah.
how do we find out more about you, what you're doing in the world, your keynote, your revolution of the future of work, your energy, intelligence, everything? How do we
Yeah.
find out more?
Yeah, best place is just my website, which is joshallan.com. So it's JOSHALLAN.com. And then if you search Josh Allan Dykstra on LinkedIn, that's probably the other best place to find me right now. I'm experimenting with some other channels, but my website and LinkedIn is where I am
Awesome.
most days, all the time.
Most days, all the time. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our chat.
Hmm.
It's certainly made me think about energy again, and always think about energy, but in the most positive, impactful way. So thank you for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, B. I appreciate you.
No, you're welcome. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. And one last thing, have you got one last piece of wisdom for everybody? I forgot to ask that.
Sure. Sure, sure. Yeah, so that's a good place for us to close. I'd say, yeah, if you want a more energized life, you can do it. Like nobody else will do it for you though. Right? You have to go on this journey. You have to discover what makes you feel alive and energized. And then you have to create a work path where you get to do that more often. You can absolutely do it, but ain't nobody else going to do it for you. So please go on that path. You'll be happy you did.
Love that. I love that so much. It's a good reminder for everybody and for those who are about to embark on their dark night of the soul potentially.
Mm, indeed.
Thank you so much, Josh. I've had a wonderful time with you and have a great afternoon, evening. And yeah, thank you. And I'll share how to get in contact with you on my notes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, you too.
Thanks.